But going back to why are people drawn to kind of violent ideologies, Dr. Herman, if I could go to you with that, and anybody that would like to answer for that matter. And that certainly seems to be the case in some of the recent history that we've seen, particularly in the Middle East. The previous administration, pulled out of Iraq, and I'd been there, a number of times. And when we were talking to our military personnel there, our Iraqi counterparts, to virtually anybody, there was always this concept that a certain level of troops would be left there for a period of time, anywhere from 10,000 to 15 to 20,000 or so. And ultimately, that's not what happened, and I would argue that we saw the results of that, which was the rise of ISIS, and the country, which I think probably Baghdad would have fallen had the administration and our allies in the region not finally stepped forward and did something. They didn't do enough, and it took far too long, but ultimately we see, recently ISIS is falling, although, they're like rats. They go into other parts of the region, and they're going to have mischief is too weak a word. There's going to be horrific action as a result of their being all over the place. But the point is, when we pulled out, it didn't take too long for Iraq to fall. If we pulled our troops out of Afghanistan, the administration is not considering that, I don't believe, but if we did, because a lot of Americans, I think, we're tired, we've been there for a long, long time, we still are losing our men and women there. If we pulled out, how long would it take for the Taliban to take over? Anybody that would like to take that?
Well, regrettably, the Taliban already controls portions of the country. I don't know that they have the capability to sort of take over Kabul in the sense of a kind of full takeover of the country, in part because of the efforts that have been put into sort of like building resiliency. But the writ of the government of Afghanistan kind of ends at the Kabul city limits, unfortunately. Right. And so how long could they kind of withstand that growing onslaught? It's hard for me to offer a timeline on that, but certainly if there is a minimized U.S. presence, efforts to ensure that doesn't happen are important, certainly.
Right. Thank you. I think as distasteful as it is that we have to, it seems like, leave our men and women in harm's way in that region longer than a lot of us thought we would be there or should be there. I think the adverse consequences of pulling them out would be tragic and horrific, and we can't afford to do that. Let me shift gears completely. I don't have a whole lot of time left, and I'm assuming you all already talked about this to some degree, but who would like to comment on Prince Mohammed bin Salman's recent aggressive diplomatic tactics and what is going on there, and what should we think about that? Mr. Campbell, I think I see you ready to chomping at the bit. So.
Yeah, we did talk about it a little bit, but I think we all agreed that no one knows the inner workings of Saudi Arabia well enough. But just to make a comment, Yemen is such a volatile place right now, and there's a lot of saber rattling coming out of Saudi Arabia. Prime Minister Hariri, left Lebanon, went to Saudi Arabia, then resigned, and then we had the sacking of the various princes and putting them in the Ritz-Carlton and so on. I don't know the inner workings. We were saying earlier that perhaps this is an anti-corruption move, but I would wonder if there's anyone in Saudi Arabia in the higher echelon of the princes that's not corrupt. So it's a little hard for me to believe that one group is not corrupt, all the other group is corrupt. But what really worries me more than anything is that at this moment, when the region is so sensitive and at this tender moment in terms of all-out warfare, even worse than what we have, Saudi Arabia appears to want to start wars. And I don't know if they are going to fight the wars because they haven't fought it very well in Yemen. Yeah. They started and they haven't been able to finish it. They've created a crisis there. So my only comment on that, not knowing the inner workings, is the way they're talking is not helpful.
Thank you. And my time's expired, but I would just, if I could, have one final comment. I think there ought to be considerable concern when one considers the rise of Iran in the region and the negative consequences of what they've wrought thus far, and to think that the Saudis could be unstable at this critical time is of, I think, considerable concern, or ought to be. I yield back.